Welcome to On Spot, where we keep you up to date with the latest news. In this week's headlines, the Holy Synod formally acknowledges 2 monasteries and appoints a new official church spokesperson. Pope Tawadros intends to pay pastoral visits to various regions of the diaspora. Starting with Coptic Orthodox Church in Cairo, where the Holy Synod has issued a number of decisions under the leadership of His Holiness Pope Tawadros II, which included the issuing of 3 new regulations which set the selection criteria for priests and monks, as well as organising the service of priests. 2 monasteries were also formally acknowledged by the Synod during the meeting: St. Antonius Monastery in Austria and St. Sarah Monastery in Samalot in Upper Egypt. The Holy Synod also resolved to recognise 2 modern-day saints, being St. Pope Carolus VI and St. Habib Gerges, the Archdeacon. The Holy Synod also appointed Father Boulos Halim of St. George Church as the official spokesperson on behalf of the Coptic Church in Egypt. In other matters, the Holy Synod also discussed the outcome of the meeting between President Morsi, His Holiness Pope Tawadros II, and El Tayyib, the Grand Imam of the El Azhar. Among the topics also discussed was changes made to elect a new pope. The draft changes, which were prepared by a committee commissioned by His Holiness, were distributed to members of the Holy Synod for consideration and are due to be decided on during the Synod's next meeting, which will be held before Christmas. Pope Tawadros II was also interested in discussions about the Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia and stressed the need to pray for the waters of the Nile and the need for the Egyptian Church to communicate with the Ethiopian people, which may have an impact and promote love for the sake of Egypt. In an exclusive interview with MCN, His Holiness Pope Tawadros II revealed his intention to visit Copts in the United States, Canada, Australia, Africa, Russia and the Arab Gulf to attend the opening of many churches. Regarding the Church's position on Copts participating in the June 30 demonstrations, His Holiness said that he has no power to prevent Christians from exercising their political duties. Moreover, every human being has the freedom to assess the situation in their own personal way and in accordance with their conscience, and the Church cannot prevent anybody from exercising this right. His Holiness Pope Tawadros II met with Her Excellency Anne Patterson, the United States Ambassador in Cairo, at the papal residence in St. Mark's Cathedral in Abbasiyah, Cairo. The Coptic Patriarch said during the meeting that Coptic citizens held the same feelings as their Muslim citizens regarding their country of Egypt. He noted that Copts have the right to participate and express their opinion regarding the current situation, and that the Church has no right to prevent its followers from their national duty. During the meeting with the ambassador, His Holiness was keen on affirming that the Church's role is a spiritual one and does not have anything to do with politics. The ambassador added that the United States government looks forward to further cooperation with the Coptic community in America, which she described as being vast. Still in Egypt, where the opposition rebel signature campaign has announced that it has reached its target of 15 million citizens' signatures in support of a withdrawal of confidence from the Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi. At a conference convened in Egypt's Kaloubiya province, north of Cairo, campaign co-founder Mahmoud Badr declared that the initiative had collected over 15 million signatures endorsing its position. Launched in May this year, the rebel campaign quickly gained momentum as anti-Morsi sentiment grew amid growing political polarization and a persistent economic downturn during Morsi's first year in office. The Muslim Brotherhood, from which Morsi hails, remains under fire for its perceived failure to make any progress since coming into power. The presidency, for its part, rejects claims that it has failed to govern the country, publishing a report on Wednesday claiming to have made progress in several areas. The rebel campaign is based on the assertion that Morsi is carrying out policies identical to those of the ousted President Hosni Mubarak, and is now calling for mass demonstration on the 30th of June, coinciding with the first anniversary of Morsi's presidency, to call for immediate presidential elections. And in an unexpected result, Salafi preacher Ahmad Muhammad Mahmoud Abdallah, also known as Abu Islam, was sentenced to 5 years in prison for contempt of Christianity after he burnt the Bible during protests in front of the United States Embassy. He also received an additional 3 years to his sentence for disturbing public peace, as well as 3 years for inciting sectarian strife, making his total sentence 11 years. His bail was set at £3,000. Abu Islam's son, Maysara al-Muttazam Billah, was also sentenced to 5 years in prison for contempt of Christianity because of his participation in the burning of the Bible, and in addition, 3 years for disturbing public peace. Over to the UK, where 5 children and 4 adults have been taken to hospital following a serious car crash outside a school in South Wales. Emergency services were called to Fontigary Road, Rhoose, near the local primary school, at 8:50 a.m. after the car overturned. Police said 4 people were being treated for significant injuries. It is understood that there were no fatalities. The 61-year-old male driver of the car is assisting police with inquiries. 4 of the children being treated at the University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff were aged between 5 and 9, while the 5th, a 9-year-old girl, is in paediatric intensive care with a head injury.
I got a phone call about 10 to 10 from one of the other parents, just so that there'd been an accident outside school. Said Ellie was fine, don't panic. Obviously your immediate reaction is sheer panic. I run up to the school. She's fine, she's distressed. She heard the bang and lots of screams. They're all screaming on the playground. So yeah, she's distressed. That's why we brought her home. She was quite upsetting class, and one of her friends are involved as well. So it's not a good day today, is it?
In Brazil, authorities have failed to halt nationwide protests despite reversing the public transport fare increases that sparked the unrest. Crowds blocked main roads in Sao Paulo and Brasilia, and protesters confronted police in Rio de Janeiro state shortly after the reversal of the decision was announced. Earlier, there were clashes before Brazil's football team played Mexico in Fortaleza in the Confederations Cup. Protesters are angry at corruption and high spending on next year's World Cup. And in the Syrian conflict, 6 ancient sites in Syria have been added to the UN list of endangered World Heritage Sites because of the threat from the conflict there. The sites were placed on the list by the UN's cultural organization UNESCO at its annual meeting in Cambodia. UNESCO said it hopes the decision will rally support for safeguarding the sites. The fighting and security situation has left Syria's archaeological sites susceptible to damage and looting. UNESCO also said its information on the scale of the destruction was partial and came from unverified sources, including social media and a report from the Syrian authorities, which it said does not necessarily reflect the actual situation. Over to Singapore, where Singapore's Prime Minister has warned that the haze engulfing the city could last for weeks, as air pollution in the city-state soared to record levels. The Pollution Standards Index peaked at 371 on Thursday, breaking previous records as well as being above hazardous levels, before falling to about 300. The haze is caused by illegal forest fires in Indonesia's Sumatra Island, southwest of Singapore. The issue has sparked accusations between the 2 neighbouring nations over who's responsible for the smog. A US study has suggested that Mars' atmosphere could have been rich in oxygen 4 billion years ago, well before Earth's air became augmented with the gas. The study in Nature Journal outlined an explanation for differences between Mars meteorites and the rocks examined by the Mars rover. Dr. Bernard Wood, the reporter's author, said the idea fits with the picture of a planet that was once warm, wet, and habitable. But other scientists were skeptical. While the rise of atmospheric oxygen on Earth was probably mediated by life, Martian oxygen could have been produced through the chemical splitting of water. And in health, a report by the World Health Organization and other groups says that more than 1 in 3 women worldwide have experienced physical or sexual violence. It says that 38% of all women murdered were killed by their partners, and such violence is a major contributor to depression and other health problems. WHO head Margaret Chan said violence against women was a global health problem of epidemic proportions. The study also calls for a worldwide end to the tolerance of such attacks, saying that new guidelines must be adopted by health officials around the world to prevent the abuse and to offer better protection for victims. Genetic similarity between snail fossils found in Ireland and the Eastern Pyrenees suggests that humans migrated from southern Europe to Ireland 8,000 years ago. The slimy creatures in Ireland today are almost identical to snails found in southern France and northern Spain. Whether an accidental visitor on a ship or brought along as a snack, the boat they were carried on did not appear to stop in Britain. As Britain emerged from the end of the last ice age about 10,000 years ago, sea levels rose and landslides are thought to have triggered a great tsunami. Britain was transformed into an island separated from mainland Europe and Ireland. Land-dwelling animals were therefore no longer able to migrate from Europe over the seas without a little help. It has long perplexed scientists that Ireland has plants and animals that are genetically different and in some cases even unique from ones found in Britain. And finally, in sport, Australia has become the third nation to qualify for the 2014 FIFA World Cup in Brazil, behind the host nation and Japan. The qualification, which takes Australia to its third consecutive and fourth overall World Cup finals competition, came as striker Josh Kennedy headed in a cross from the teammate Marco Bresciano in front of over 80,000 home fans at the Sydney Olympic Stadium to produce a 1-0 result against competition rivals Iraq. That's all for On Spot today. Stay tuned next week for our brand new CYC news segment from the CYC studio, Sydney, Australia.